What's up, my nieces and nephews? So let's talk about this riot. Okay, and we're gonna go from point A to point B to point C to point Z. Okay, let's start with the cause, the main cause of this riot. George Floyd, killed unjustly, yes, but Tim Duncan, or was it Jim Duncan, and Tony Tampa died the exact same way, but they're white so they don't get publicity. But we're just not going to talk about that. The death. Now, George Floyd, people say that he died of suffocation. The cop was on his neck for about 8 minutes, and he was still okay. Well, not okay, but you know what I mean. It takes about 3 minutes to die from suffocation. Now, the autopsy revealed that George died of a heart attack caused from the cop. That is why he was charged with third-degree murder, because it wasn't intent to kill. So in a way, it's manslaughter. But people should be happy that it's third degree, because then it makes it harder for the cop to get a lighter sentence. Isn't that what the people want? Now, what the cop was doing was completely wrong. In the mechanics of an arrest, not one cop, okay, city cop, they are not instructed to arrest a suspect the way that he did. Now, I'm not going to talk about SWAT. I'm not going to talk about DEA. I'm not talking about those guys. Those guys are totally different. But let's also talk about the movement, okay? Why does it take a white man to kill a black man for Black Lives to matter? And people get all pissed off when you mention black on black, black on Hispanic, black on Asian crime. And it's like, why? That's why I'm a supporter of all lives matter. And it's just, I just think all lives are valuable. And then let's talk about the protest. Protests were getting somewhere, okay? Now, when the riots broke out, that is when they should have stopped using the Black Lives Matter movement as a mask and an excuse. And they also, when they broke out, should have stopped using justice for George Floyd. Because now, anytime people think of George Floyd, they think about this. All that unjust bullshit going around. All the excuses that people in those movements are using to rob stores, ruin other people's lives, small shops. And it's like, why? And now there's people wanting out, or people leaving to go and just kill innocent white people. Why? Like, why? There are videos around, it's Facebook posts, it's everything. Now, to me, and I get heat and I get love from my TikTok because I say, Black Lives Matter is being butchered, has been butchered, and it's just, now it's a joke. And I'm sorry if you think otherwise, but, that's just what it is. People who preach ACAB, they're the exact same. They say, oh, well, not all cops are bad. It's just the system needs to be fixed. Or they say even the good cops are bad because they support a system. Well, then I could say the same thing about Black Lives Matter. You don't do anything to stop the radicalists. So that makes you just as bad in that logic. Does it not? Yes, it does. So now that we got that out the way, people, a Target, a Macy's, an ATM, Icebox, jewelry stores, two black men shops that they paid for with their life savings. Innocent people, I'm hearing 20 to 40 died already in the riots. And literally none of that makes sense because it's like you want to punish the cops, so you kill your neighbor. And they say the analogy, for Black Lives Matter is if this house is on fire, you're not going to water all the other houses. Well, guess what? You set them on fire. Like, what the fuck? Like, literally, it makes absolutely no sense to me. And they're like, oh, well, our house is the one that's on fire. We need to put our focuses on our house. Well, then why did you set it on fire? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, when people bring up that analogy now, they should really just throw that out the window. And it's just sad, you know? Black lives never mattered to people until a white person takes it. And then they try and justify that mindset by saying, oh, well, when it's a white on black, it's always because of their race. No, it isn't. It's not always because of their race. To the white people that kill black people because of their race, which are actually pretty few, they're just as fucked up. But guess what? Black on black? What about that? What about the Black Lives Mattering there? What about the black men's shops that you guys wanted to ruin? So it makes no sense. There are people of color and black people who speak out against this, and then it's their own people bashing them the most, right? I'm a person of color. All four of my ethnicities are people of color. And if you want to get technical, all right, Italian's not a color. And if you're going to say it's white, all right, well, guess what? Italians are still oppressed in America. So you can't use that on me either. All four of my ethnicities were oppressed, colonized, enslaved, conquered from America or some other country before America wanted to do that stuff to us. So there's that. But people using the Black Lives Matter movement as an excuse and to justify the crimes that they're doing makes absolutely no sense. And the National Guard coming in, I support it, and I really hope that the National Guard is safe, okay? Meaning that their lives are just as important. But if they need to, let them pop off a couple shots. I don't care. At this point, like, makes no sense. When people say we need to uplift our community, why are you burning it down then? You better not complain when taxes skyrocket like tenfold. Do you know how bad your taxes will be? Our taxes will be. Now, it'll obviously be worse for them though, because, they live there. But really? Like, are you stupid? It makes no sense. And yes, to me, black lives do matter. All lives matter. But that doesn't negate me saying all lives matter. Because all lives do matter. Whether it was brought up to counter the Black Lives Matter movement or any of that. And honestly, BLM now it is basically a domestic terrorist group. That and Antifa, however you pronounce that, them too. Now, the peaceful protesters, I stand with them 100%, okay? But not the rioters, because they're taking innocent people's lives and they're ruining it. And guess what? They're in the same social status. They're in the same financial status. So if these guys are low, okay, and burning down homes and those people's jobs that they used to live, okay, these people brought their own people even lower. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. Now, people bringing up the Tea Party and the revolution. It makes me sad that these are Americans using the Boston Tea Party and saying that is the exact same as these riots. Now let me break down the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party was a revolt against the Brits on the taxation on tea because there was no representation. No taxation without representation. So, what did those people do? They raided the ship that was bringing tea, and they threw it overboard. All right? Here's the thing. No taxation without representation. The tax on the tea. Okay? So they had a problem with the taxation on the tea. So they threw the tea overboard. A white cop kills a black man. You rob countless stores, ATMs, kill other innocent people, burn down homes, destroy black people's shops, your own people. Does their black life not matter? Is that what you're telling me? People who use the Boston Tea Party and say that it is the exact same as this, no, it is not. It is not the same. And the fact that you're American and you're saying that, it's just twice as sad. If you're not in this country or you've never been to America, because there are a lot of my followers that have, they wouldn't know American history. Why would they? You know? I'll let them say that, but at the same time, if you're gonna mention anything like that in America's history, you should know a little bit more about it before you talk about it. But the funny thing is, foreign people know a little bit more than Americans do, and that's very sad that foreign people know more about America's history than we do as Americans. That's pretty sad. But you can't be hoping for too much from these people nowadays, can you? Look, I stand with the statement that all lives matter. And when people say, oh, well, all lives matter was a counter towards black lives, it's only a counter if you make it a counter. If you say all lives matter and then I cut you off and say black lives matter, I am just as bad if you say black lives matter and I cut you off with all lives matter. I don't do that. When you say a black life matters, I will never just cut you off and say, oh, well, all lives matter. No, I will respect that. But if I say all lives matter, do not cut me off and say, no, black lives matter. And don't say that all lives will matter once black lives do, if you're just gonna go and kill each other and ruin each other's lives. Like, excuse me? That makes no sense. And sorry for the noise, I'm about to have some of my brother and my nephew coming up. But it just doesn't make any sense. I'll catch y'all later.